Steve Gamash with A Chef Knives to Go. Quick look product video. This time we're looking at the Richmond GT Artifex Wa Gyuto 240mm knife. This knife has the same steel as the Fujiwara FKM stainless series, so it's AUS8 or could be AUS8A possibly, stainless. And the heat treat rating is about 58 or 59, so not too hard. Real nice introduction to this style of steel and Japanese knives in general. The construction is monosteel, so the entire blade is made out of that same steel. There's no cladding or layers on it. It's all one steel. And the weight on this knife is pretty light for such a big knife, 5.5 ounces, and the blade length is 245, so it's a little over 240. They'll vary slightly, but that's the length on this one. Overall length about 16 inches, so it's a pretty big knife. It's got a nice generous handle on it as well. The knife is pretty thin. That's probably why it's so light, and it's about 2.1 millimeter here above the heel spine or heel chin area, and then tapers off a little bit. Pretty much holds about 2 millimeter all the way through, and then you've got a nice distal taper at the grind. The grind starts pretty high up, so you've got a nice taper towards the tip to make the tip perform a little better. It's got generous height at 49.2 millimeters, and I want to address that as well. Mark has two versions of these. He's got the older original version, which came out around 45 millimeters, and I actually have one of those. And then the second generation is basically almost identical, except the height has been raised to about 49 millimeters, and the profile's changed a little bit as a result of that. And I think it makes for a nicer blade because it gives you some additional height on it, more appropriate to the length of the knife. The handle type is an octagonal U, buffalo horn ferrule. It's a really nice handle. You do get a little bit of a jump here or a feel between the wood and the buffalo horn ferrule, but overall it's a real nice handle. It's about 3 inches circumference right here at the wood ferrule junction, and it fits the knife really well. It has a nice curved choil neck area to fit your fingers into. You could sand it a little bit if you want to, but it's not too bad out of the box, and the spine actually is pretty good to go, I think. But if you want to hit these with a little sandpaper, that would make it even more comfortable. Balance point is just in front of a pinch grip, so right about there. Pinch grip would be just behind that. And the profile on this is just real nice. It's a gentle curve. It doesn't have a long flat spot. It has a little bit of a flat spot, but it's kind of a continuous curve throughout the blade. And there's the edge. It's not super duper thin behind the edge. This is not going to perform like, let's say, a Konesuke HD laser style knife, but it's not too far off. It's not quite as good of a performer, but it's a good way to get this style of knife. The profile actually is a little bit more like that Funayuki style, Gyuto style. So anyway, here's what it looks like on the cutting board. So it's kind of a continuous, you don't have a big long flat spot back here, so it makes a nice rocker, and you do have a thin tip as well for detail work, so that's what it looks like on the board. The out-of-the-box edge was so-so on this. I'll give it about a 3 or 4 out of 10. It's a little hard to show on camera, but this is the right side of the knife as you look holding the knife. This is the left side of the knife. And this has a kind of a strong right-hand bias to the edge bevel. So the actual edge bevel is quite a bit larger. I'll say it's at least a 70-30, maybe an 80-20 or more. On the right-hand side being much larger than the left-hand side. The knife, I'm a lefty, did steer slightly for me. But if you wanted, you could maybe put a little bit more of a bevel on the left side of the knife and try to even it out, maybe 60-40. The overall profile of the knife, though, it's a little flatter on the left side of the knife than the right side of the knife. The right side is a little more convex to it than the left. But overall, it's a real nice blade. It's a great way to get into a wah-handled, longer knife with not super hard steel for a little bit more forgiveness on that steel. At a really reasonable price. So there you have the Richmond GT Artifex Wa Gyuto 240mm.